When it comes to investing in single let properties, the profit margins are really small. So it's really important that we try to protect them. Now that's easier said than done because every year they bring out new regulations and they make changes to the tax rules, which makes property investing harder and harder every year. Now, I'm normally a fan of trying to increase your output, increase your income, rather than trying to minimize expenses. But I think it's very important in property that we review our portfolio property by property and make sure that each individual asset is performing well enough to keep. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the biggest killers of your profit margin. Now, to start with, I want to talk to you about maintenance because I think maintenance is fair to say this is one of the biggest killers when it comes to your profits. You might earn £3,500 per year in profit from one of your single let properties, but if a boiler goes, well, so does half your profit. So when it comes to property investing, not only is it really important at the start to either do a good quality refurbishment, or maybe it's even fair to say that if you're buying a turnkey property, that you buy a good quality turnkey. But it's also very important to know how to manage these properties and deal with the maintenance when it comes up, because it's often that the smaller jobs are actually better to have done by a generic maintenance man, whereas the bigger jobs he might charge an arm and a leg for because he doesn't know how to do them, or it's too complex, it takes up too much of his time. Whereas you might find a builder or a tradesperson might much prefer to do the larger jobs, and therefore they're more competitive and they're more professional with those, whereas they don't want to be dealing with the everyday smaller jobs. So it's really important that you quite quickly learn about the tradespeople within your area, try to adapt to that and work with them on a one-to-one level. And the only thing worse than a property that is earning a low profit margin is an empty one, because void periods are probably the second biggest killer of your profit margins. Not only because now you are no longer getting any rent, but now because you have to float the council tax each month, you have to pay for the electricity and heating. You've got obviously the other expenses to now consider, which is now your interest-only mortgage, it's now your insurance, and now your managing agent on a property that is, well, empty. In order to avoid voids, I would actually recommend that we actively try and make our properties something or somewhere that someone would want to stay for a long, long time. A lot of property investors think they are helping and going the extra mile to provide a property that is furnished or to provide a property with lots of white goods. But in actual fact, what you're doing is encouraging someone to stay for a shorter period of time. And by actually only providing things such as oven and a hob, now you are creating an environment where someone has to come in and make this into a home. So hopefully they would stay for longer. We can also try and de-risk ourselves from these void periods by staying up to date on maintenance, making this property an amazing place for someone to live, but also vetting the person that we move in the first place. If we look back on their references and they've stayed 6 or 12 months for the last 3 properties they've lived in, well, the chances are they might do the same with your property. Now, insurance is a monthly cost that we of course can't live without, not only because our mortgage lenders require us to have this, but also because we don't want to be fronting the bill if something goes wrong with the property or within the insides of the property. But when it comes to insurance, a lot of people get this wrong. They think that, when we go out to purchase home insurance, when we purchase car insurance, maybe even when we get health insurance, we might be looking at things such as Go Compare or looking online and trying to compare companies like for like. But when it comes to certain things in life, and I think buy-to-let insurance is one of those, we need to go to a broker. After my first property and experience of trying to do this online, I have always ever since gone to a insurance broker. They can find the best potential product for us, which often means we can bring down that price. And although not a huge difference between £16 a month and say £30 a month, over a year, every little counts. Next up is letting agents. Now, I'm not talking down when it comes to letting agents. I think a large amount of them actually do a fantastic job and allow us as investors to step back from the day-to-day management of the properties, focus maybe more on buying more properties, or just focus on our lives. But I thought I would include them within this video because it definitely does eat into our profit margins. And if you're at the point in which you perhaps are maybe not thinking about buying as many and actually you want to get more profit from your current portfolio, then this is a really important thing to think about doing. and you might be able to eke more profit out of that portfolio by swapping to self-management. Now, self-managing properties isn't something that I currently do, nor do I intend to do in the near future, as I really value my time and I really value the idea of being able to put my attention and my focus into building my sourcing business and continuing to grow my property business. But I'm also fully aware of the fact that it's a big expense. One property rented for £650 could be paying £75 to a letting agent. You now times that by 12 and that's now £900 of expense on potentially a property that's only making, let's say, between £4,000 and £5,000 a year profit. We've now lost £900 to the letting agent. I say lost, but of course they are providing a service for that. Now, if we take that £900, we times it by 10, a potential portfolio of 10, now we're losing £9,000. And that really could be profit that we take out of the business to pay ourselves. Now, it could even be, which some people don't ever consider, that £9,000 could be taken to actually hire someone for ourselves, hire someone that actually just manages our properties and also helps us find new properties. Paying a letting agent is really important, particularly in the starting stages. But once we start to grow a bigger portfolio, taking a step back and actually managing some of these ourselves can really help eke out more profit. Now, lastly, you thought I'd forgot tax, but I would never forget tax because I know you love it on this channel. And when it comes to talking tax, tax actually isn't necessarily a profit killer because normally we're paying tax on, well, our profits. But when it comes to looking at tax, it's really important to add this into the mix because yeah, we've got our rent, we've got our expenses, then we've got our profit, but don't forget we've got to pay tax. Now, this is probably most relatable to those of us in limited companies, as those in personal name no longer get the opportunity to deduct as many expenses as they once could. After the changes in Section 24 tax, it now means that only limited companies can really take the rent, deduct mortgage interest at full rate and other expenses along the way. You have to remember to claim those monthly expenses. That might be claiming petrol. It might be claiming travel and hotel costs. It might be claiming just the cost of using your office. Maybe it's claiming the furniture that you buy for within your office. And maybe it's even claiming for things like your refurbishment or your repairs on your property, because the more expenses you have, the less tax that you have. Not only that, but don't forget your losses. If you've had a couple of big years of scaling, don't forget that you can bring those losses forward and offset them against any profits that you've made in future years. And of course, the more losses that you have and that you can bring forward, well, the less tax that you now have to pay. These are my top 5 profit killers. Now more than ever, it's important to get our profit. So go out there, invest in property, focus on your profits, and I'll see you in a future video.